Hey, we back at the Woobies compound. I'm Edgar Jones. We're with a good friend, Tom Spooner.
And I'm Mason Hamlet, CEO of Woobies. Tom, thanks for coming. Do you have a few things to say about our talk we had this evening?
Man, the talk was great. The partnership that we have with Woobies is great, and what y'all are doing with Warriors Heart and for our Warriors that are coming through is absolutely amazing. And so we're fully behind everything that y'all are doing, and enjoy the boots myself.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. We have our collaboration with Warriors Heart, our jungle boot coming out soon. Stay tuned. Hey guys, appreciate it. I guess kick off with an intro of myself. Mason Hamlet. I was a Marine vet, counterintelligence, human intelligence Marine. Started Woobies with the original founder, a Green Beret, 7th Troop guy, in 2020 after we got our MBAs at SMU, and that's when we met Edgar. So I've been doing it ever since for the last 4 years.
I'm Edgar Jones, head of partnership here at Woobies. Keeping it simple.
There you go. There you go. So we're here today to introduce, it's a privilege to introduce a man whose life and career exemplifies leadership, resilience, and a commitment to excellence. Tom Spooner is a retired Master Sergeant who served 21 extraordinary years in the United States Army, including 16 years in Special Operations and with the elite Delta Force. With 12 combat deployments and 40 months of total of team-level combat experience, Tom led by example, consistently demonstrating courage, integrity, and a relentless dedication to his mission and his teammates. Tom's leadership extends far beyond the battlefield. As co-founder and president of Warriors Heart, he has empowered over 3,000 veterans, first responders, law enforcement officers to reclaim their lives and find strength in community and purpose. His work reflects the same values that defined his military career: teamwork, accountability, and an unwavering support for those who serve. Edgar and I had a chance to visit the Warriors Heart facility in Bandera, Texas. Went to the river.
Went to the river.
And got to see firsthand how they're able to help veterans, active duty military, and first responders heal, and just from the environment and activities such as woodworking, art, yoga, nature hikes, and to help people heal. Tom is deeply grounded in his faith, his family, and his belief in the power of community. He is an inspiring leader, an advocate, and a living testament to the strength of the human spirit. Today, Tom is here to share his insights and leadership on the lessons learned from a life of service, sacrifice, and helping others overcome challenges. Please join me, and before we welcome Tom, we're going to allow Shane here, an alumni of the Warriors Heart program, to give himself an intro.
Yeah, hi, Shane St. John. Spent 17 years in the military, most of that 5th Special Forces Group, Green Beret. Multiple deployments overseas, 6 total. So when I got out, I kind of lost identity, struggled with PTSD, TBI, and addiction, and just kind of went down. So ended up with Warriors Heart and been striving ever since. Now I work with the guys there, mentoring them through the program, trying to help them out.
It's awesome. That's awesome.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for being here. So please welcome Shane and Tom, everyone. Great. So this evening we're introducing a new series at Woobies we want to call Continue On Into the Future. We're calling this Heroes and Insights, where we talk to heroes and leaders to hear about their experiences and draw out insights. Today with Tom Spooner and Shane, we'll explore leadership in high-stakes environments, the founding of Warriors Heart, and the hidden struggles faced by those who serve. We'll also dive into the journey of healing and how we can empower warriors to rebuild, grow, and lead. So, thanks for being here.
Yeah. Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
That's quite the intro.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
That's
quite the career.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Spoon and Shane, thank y'all again for joining us. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us, man.
Anytime people give you their time, we really appreciate that, because you can be doing a lot of different things. So thank you again for joining us.
Absolutely.
Our pleasure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Spooner.
Yeah.
Life lessons, leadership lessons during the time of special operations. What would you say those leadership lessons look like?
Man, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
The number one thing is like that's quite a resume that you said. I'm super proud of everything that I did. Absolutely proud, and to be completely honest, like a lot of days I was just barely trying to keep up with the men that I worked with, throughout my entire career, not just when I was in Delta, but in Special Forces, even in the 82nd. I mean, had Vietnam veterans, I had all my military career and even all my life. I've just had these strong examples of what to be, and so that's, I mean, I'll take credit for I don't quit and I work really hard. But other than that, man, I've always had someone leading the way, and a lot of times even being carried, I mean, the whole time. So that one of the biggest one, and it's the most simplest one as far as leadership lessons, is lead by example.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of period, end of story. Like, there's delegation and, all kinds of other stuff that goes back. But if you're not practicing what you preach, then everybody knows, like the whole deal, right? You can fool the fans, but you ain't gonna fool the players, So it's so that was, again, man, that's what was given to me. That's the example, was given to me, and then and that still holds true today, man. You don't talk about it, be about it, So that's tough.
The best message spoke is the one you live.
That's it.
Not the one you talk about it. If you speak to people about something, you do something different, you confuse people.
Yeah, I heard a saying a long time ago. It was like, if I could remember it, it was like, my actions speak so loud that my words can't be heard. Right, because everybody's watching.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
that's interesting you say that from a sports standpoint. I think about coaches I've been around.
Right.
And I get to the sideline and something happened in a play.
Yeah.
And I'm talking and I'm trying to explain to him what happened. And he's just like, what did you do?
Yeah.
That's all I want to know.
Don't care why.
I don't care why.
Yeah.
Tell me exactly what you did. So that's, thanks for sharing that. Shane, what would you say? 17 years. Lessons, leadership lesson that you learned.
Same as Tom. I had a lot of great guys in the Green Berets, and a lot of great guys on the team, and just lead by example. Yeah, exactly. You ever just put your foot forward and keep going, and then like lead by example. Yeah, exactly. I don't really have anything else to emphasize on that. I mean, it is what it is.
Simplicity.
That's the way to do it. So that's what I believe in.
That's awesome, man. Who's somebody that you guys looked up to earlier in your career, aspired to be a leader, like historical or current, maybe a commander or somebody like that? Is there somebody that you guys aspired to be like?
Yeah, no, for me, man, it was, originally joining the military. I mean, I had my uncle who was a 3-tour Vietnam vet.
Oh, wow.
And then my grandfather was a World War II vet. He was in the Pacific, in the
Marine?
Army.
Oh, Army?
He was in the Army,
Okay.
yeah. And
Okinawa
what's that?
Okinawa, or was that?
He was around New Guinea and all of that area. And but those was my pre-military, the folks, because I wanted to join the military. They were always a big thing. And then, throughout my entire career, then when I first got in, I went right to the Gulf War. So I came in 90. So I was a private, straight from basic AIT jump school and right over to Saudi Arabia, then Iraq. So, and that combat wasn't anything that I experienced compared to post 9/11. But at that time, going from being a civilian straight into combat, like it was significant, and set the tone. But all throughout my career, it was like even right from the get-go. I was that kid reading all the Vietnam vet books, all these guys. And next thing you know, in front of me, my platoon sergeant's a Vietnam veteran. My battalion sergeant major is in Charlie Rangers, like one of the books that I read. He's standing right there. So, and then everybody has a different military experience, man. I was just blessed the whole time. But from the time in the 82nd, I had all those kind of guys around me that demanded that I give my best, like, and wouldn't settle for anything less, So, and then as soon as I got to 7th Group, pre 9/11, I had a bunch of guys that were El Salvador vets, you know, Iran Contra,
Yep.
all that stuff,
Yep.
you know. So here yet now in Green Berets, I got these combat veterans, you know, in front of me.
Because
Then
that was seventh group's. That was always their AO, right? Was South America.
In Central South America.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then post 9/11 out at the unit. I mean, my training course instructors were all Black Hawk Down cadre.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
wow.
They had all
Yeah.
been that. So I have had one of the blessed careers as far as having an example. And that was my choice to follow that example or not, but I did, you know, choose to do that. And so, so I mean, I can pick out individuals' names and stuff along the way, but I just always had that group of people, you know, and then, as far as for me, what about?
Yeah. For me, mine was my very first sergeant. He was from Ranger Bat, and we were in the regular Army at that time, and I was a PFC, and he just led by example, you know, and he seen something in me and sent me to Ranger school as a private in a regular Army unit was kind of a big deal.
Oh yeah.
Usually those are for Ranger Bat boys. So he seen something in me, sent me, and
Made it through the first time.
no, I recycle mountains.
Yeah.
I love the blueberry pancakes so much. I needed more, right?
Me too.
Yeah, I love them blueberry pancakes.
That's all about
But I called back to the unit.
Anybody can make it straight through. Right?
Yeah, I know, right?
I mean, who can do like
especially
extra?
mounts to do it.
You're like an
twice.
extra ranger.
Exactly.
Me too.
I should put like a double tablet.
That's
in there,
right.
So, you know.
Yeah.
But I remember I called back to my unit and to check in, and I was like, "Hey, can I talk to First Sergeant or whatever?" And he's like, "Hey, man, he's at Delta selections right now." I was like, "Really?" I had no idea he was going. And I was like, "Well, at that point, I was like, I can't quit now. I got to go through. He's over here trying out for Delta, and I'm over here doing Ranger." So yeah, he led that example for me, man. He was just always there. Yeah.
But I did have a thought thinking about it a little bit. My first platoon sergeant, Vietnam vet dude, something that he taught me carried throughout to date.
Okay.
Like, and that was so I was
You're a PFC now.
well, yeah, I was I was a PFC, and then ended up going to Ranger School as a E4 as a specialist in the 82nd in the early 90s. So that was kind of a big deal.
Yep.
And so I got Ranger School, and then I went out to PLDC. It's a education development. You have to school you got to go to before you get your
corporal's
E5.
course?
That.
Yep.
So I come back from that, you know, I'm Ranger and I'm corporal.
Pushing
I'm
your
like,
shoulders
yeah,
back.
oh yeah, man. I'm like an NCO, non-commissioned officer, you know, and my platoon sergeant, and he said, he's like, okay, so tell me what it's like to what does it mean to be an NCO? And the answer is mission and health and welfare of the troops, right? So mission first, and then health and welfare of the troops. He said, yeah. And he said, well, what does health and welfare of the troops mean? You know, and I'm like, well, because I just come through that school and I gave him all the book answers and hey, I know how many kids they have. I know if they got financial problems, beans, bullets, they got everything they need. He's like, yeah, that's not what it means at all. And I'm like, I just come from the school, you know what I mean? And I was like, man, what? He said, no, health and welfare of the troops means that you give them the ability to survive and thrive in combat. That's what that means.
Wow.
Significantly different, like beans, bullets, and knowing their personal stuff, like that's a given, man. But like, and so that set the tone with my little bit of combat that I already had, and then now this combat vet saying like, hey, this is what's up, you know, and then from the rest of my time in the military career, that's what it was about, you know, survive and thrive in combat, and then you know, post-military, then it was everything in the war at home, you know, which is survive and thrive in combat. Now it's not physical combat, it's combat between my ears, you know.
Welcome to the jungle, right?
Hell yeah.
That's interesting that you say that as an E4, that stuck with you.
Oh yeah, 2 years in the Army, man, from that moment on.
Wow. Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Spooner, what inspired you to create Warrior's Heart, and how did you identify need for it?
Yeah, so early in my military career, shortly, you know how you always go to the top before the fall, you know. So for me, during that same time frame, right? I mean, so I struggled with alcohol my whole life, you know, at a young age, you know. But I was super high functioning, obviously. So in the military, I was this golden boy, you know, doing all these things that not many had. But in my personal life, it was absolute train wreck. And so I got sober in '92, September 2nd of '92, and which was a huge deal for me. And, you know, and then the rest of my military career, you know, and to date, you know, I mean, I've been sober, but it was such a big deal for me to, and I went to AA and get sober. I didn't get sober on my own. Gotta make sure that's out there. And, but, you know, getting sober, number one, you know, being able to live without drinking and drugging, and then to have a God in my life, you know what I mean, and to have focus and have abilities. I mean, I was already a good soldier, and then once I got sober, I mean, now I was like fully all in, capable. And so that's what started. So I was passionate even while I was on active duty, full military, all my combat time, everything, you know, I was sober through all of it. And so I've always been super passionate. And I was always working with, even before Warriors Heart, you know, first responders and
Helping
soldiers.
guys out,
Yeah,
helping
like
guys
on
get
Fort
in.
Bragg, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Fort Bragg AA meetings and all that stuff. So we were all there. It was kind of like Warriors Heart, except not inpatient. You know, that's how I got sober. And so whenever I got out, you know, had a lot of struggles with TBI and PTS. The only reason why I didn't kill myself was because I wasn't struggling with chemical dependencies on top of it. Because that's really, it's a lot of times it's the trifecta. You know, it's undiagnosed, untreated TBI, unprocessed trauma, PTS, whatever you want to call it, and chemical dependencies, you know, self-medications. And so I already knew all that piece. And so whenever I got out, I was super passionate about veteran suicide, you know. And but the thing about not just veterans, but also military and our first responders and law enforcement, you know, with that population, like if we're going to kill ourselves, we just do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not going to be a cry for help or anything. That's just, you know, it usually sounds like, man, I didn't think they were that bad off, or man, I just talked to them the other day. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, hey, if you can't stop that, you know, how do you get ahead of it? Well, 100% of the ones that I know there's some out there that not, but they did that when they were under the influence, you know, of something, whether that was alcohol, illicit drugs, or prescription, whatever. So in theory, if you could get ahead of it, you know, with the alcohol and drugs piece, solve that, then maybe you won't get to, you know what I mean, the suicide piece. So, so between me already being passionate about it and, you know, and that's what I was always engaged with. I mean, even whenever I was deployed, I was calling guys, you know, on the sat phone, like guys I sponsor, like, you go to a meeting? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And, but that was my tether to reality, you know, to keeping me whole, even in that environment. So whenever I got out, Warriors Heart was not anything I could do on my own, right? On my own, I was helping guys one-on-one and stuff. But in 2013, I met Josh and Lisa Lannon, who ended up becoming, we became partners, me and my wife, Lori, him and his wife, Lisa. And we created Warriors Heart, you know, and because it was, we didn't just make a better widget, you know, or like improve on something. This was a space that no one was covering down on, right? That we're still like the only, it's crazy to say it, but we're still the only institution that only handles this population, right? And it's not because this population is any special than any other population, but this population has a certain peer network, right? There's a certain things that come with the job, you know what I mean, with the profession, you know, and so being able to get all those folks together, you know, at Warriors Heart, you know, with all the things that we do, but that's why it was created, because it was, you know what I mean, the veteran suicide rate, you know, is still somewhere around 22 a day, you know what I mean? If everybody's working as hard as they can, but it's not working, you know, so we needed to do more, and that's what we did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shane, talk about your experience at Warriors Heart. Like, how did you, what happened to get you to that place of going to Warriors Heart?
So it was 2012. I started struggling with just my mental capability started declining.
You're still in at this time?
I'm still in at the time. They asked me if I would want to get off the trail a little bit and become an instructor. I was like, yeah, I needed it anyway. So I went to Camp McCall, became a SUT instructor until 17. And I thought it was really going to help, but honestly, it hurt a lot worse because everything slowed down for us on a team, and you're either deployed or you're trained to deploy, right? The op tempo is so high. Well, when I became an instructor, it just slowed down for me tremendously, and everything just started reeling back in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I ended up, they med boarded me out. So I ended up retiring out of the military. When I got home, I had all these aspirations. I was super excited about it at first. So I went to work at the VA hospital. I thought working around the veterans was going to be awesome for me and helping out. But started getting into the politics at the VA, and I just kept declining. And as that's going,
was it just depressing to be a part of that
it was.
bureaucracy?
Yeah, it really was. Because all I want to do is just help the guys.
Yeah, and
you
not
know
all
what I
the
mean?
roadblocks and everything in the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And so the drinking just started increasing. I mean, I've already kind of drank through the team life and did all that. And I started eating the pain pills and started using those to kind of cope with stuff. Started drinking a lot. And I just couldn't take it anymore. So I ended up leaving the VA, just kind of retired. The wife at the time, we bought a property near her family. And all my job was just going to be just live on this farm, rebuild the house, and just do the farm life.
Yeah.
But man, that was the worst thing I could have done.
Yeah.
Because at that point, now I'm waking up at 6 a.m. and I'm cracking a beer. Right?
Yeah.
I got no responsibilities other than drop the kids off at school, picking them up. That was it, right? And work on the house.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was just too far gone. And it was February of 22. At that point, it was kind of in the back of my mind as, I was really struggling. Suicidal ideations were all the time. I mean, just nonstop. Drive down the road, I'd see a tree, I should just drive right into it, kind of things, And my plan was to finish the property for my wife and children, and then I was going to go kill myself. Yeah. There's a lot more backstory to it, but man, I was just in a dark place, and I was ruining who I was. I was ruining my family and my children's lives. But I didn't make it that far. I couldn't even finish the house. I ended up finally having to leave. I left them just because I knew of the shame and guilt that I was carrying, and I just could not sustain it anymore. And I went and tried to kill myself for the first time. Unsuccessful, obviously. I'm still here, right? Thank God.
Thank God.
But then, so I went and did some help. I went and did the psychedelic treatments in South America. I've done some Merck, the VA therapy, CBTs. I've done all that, right? And nothing helped. Well, what I didn't recognize was my alcoholism, right? I thought it was PTSD, TBI, the pain pills the whole time. Like, I cure those three things, I'm golden, right? And I didn't recognize the alcohol. So I just kept drinking after that, and the psychedelics, it helps. But if you don't do everything else first, if you don't clear your head first, then there's no point of even doing it.
Yeah.
So 6 months later, I just went off the rail. I went manic, went crazy, tried to commit suicide again. The cops ended up getting involved. My parents were involved. And I had an intervention with me the next day. And I remember it was really important because I'm sitting there on the porch and I'm still drinking at the time. And me and my dad have a really kind of distant relation. He's a Vietnam vet himself who struggles with PTSD and alcoholism growing up. And he just kind of came up to me, he looked at me, he seen the condition that I was in. He started crying, turned around and walked away, got in his truck and drove off. Never even said a freaking word to me. And that threw me for a loop. At that point, I was like, just completely hopeless. And she begged me to go get help for the children. So I agreed. And they're like, so I called the Green Beret Foundation. They're the ones that hooked me up with Warrior's Heart. I showed up at Warrior's Heart. I didn't care. Yeah. I was just there purely just to check the block for the children, right? I knew in the back of my head what I wanted to do. And I heard this man's story. It was a week 2 that I was there, the whole time. And I remember when I was being there, they'd be like, welcome home, and I'm like, man, my home's overseas. Whatever, bro. I don't care. And then I heard this man's story here, and there was a lot of similarities in our childhood, even through our combat experience too, that I could really relate to. And I seen how he got through this and how he's striving now. And we went and we spoke for like 2 hours after you shared.
Yeah, by the fire pit.
And the fire pit. And I mean, that moment, he asked me 3 things. I remember this. I'll never forget this day. I'm like, can you do 3 things for me, Shane? I'm like, what are they? And he's like, be at the right place, the right time, the right uniform. It's pretty standard military shit. You think you can pull that off, Shane? I was like, yeah, for you, Tom. Yeah, I will. I'll do that. And that started the whole journey. He's like, then we'll take care of the rest. And obviously I did the work, but they fostered the environment for that to happen, right? and they kicked that off for me to be able to like recognize that. And for me, Warriors Heart, the staff is amazing. They really truly care. They love the program's amazing, but it's the Warriors healing the Warriors, right? It's sitting around the fire pit, sharing our experiences with each other, having Tom share his experience,
Yeah.
just to realize like we're not alone, and to realize like I'm not the only dude that's this dark,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and there are way, and by his example, there is a way out of this,
Yeah.
right? It was just huge for me, game changer. So I got fully invested at that point. I started doing the EMDR, the canine program. I started doing everything they had to offer. Went to sober living, did the IOP, did the TMS program they had. And man, I was just, here I am, thriving, like doing well. I've been traveling the world, doing all kinds. Now I'm a mentor for the guys that go through the program in Virginia, you know, and I just, for me, this mission is more important than anything I've done overseas.
That's what
like,
I wanted to ask you, is that purpose that you found, is that what you think, you know, because it sounds like you know, hey, I'm going to go to the VA, and then that's, you know, you get out, you're like, oh, my dream job's a VA, right? You know, that's not your purpose. I'm going to have the farm. That's my, you know, like, and then finally, do you think it's more finding your purpose is the way out?
Yes, I
Yes.
do. That is the sustainability of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're going to reset you, get you set on a good path, get you the tools that you need, like they gave me, right? They gave me the tools to recognize this. Do I still have bad days? Absolutely, right? But I recognize those a lot faster than I would have back in the day.
Yeah.
And I'm able to battle those with the tools that I got from Warriors Heart.
Yeah.
You know?
Because you got the other guys relying on you now.
Yeah.
Like, you got your guys.
Yeah, now I got these guys, like, they're my accountability, right?
Yeah.
Like, I got to be there for them. I can't go back there like drunk and be around them, right? Like, I have that accountability, and them guys keep me going, you know?
Lead by example, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like,
It's
it's
a team.
it's my passion. Like, I bring these boys home.
Dude, that takes a tremendous amount of courage to share that, man. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Shane, what would
Thank
you
you.
say that you learned about yourself through that experience?
That I'm resilient.
Yeah.
That I actually have a lot more love than what I thought I had. Before, you know, anything emotional happened, somebody died. Oh, that's cool. That sucks. I'm sorry. Whatever, you know. But now it's like I actually have emotions. I show emotions. I cry now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm okay with being vulnerable, because vulnerable for me is growth.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm exposing myself, putting myself out there, that's growth for me, and I'm all about that growth right now. And I just never stop learning. Never stop this journey, man. This journey is, there is no destination. The journey is the journey, right?
Yeah.
Like, there is no destination. I will always continue to do this.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, man.
That vulnerability part is important.
It is.
It's, I run a lot. Playing sports, ran sprints all day. But to get out there and run 13 miles, had to be a little vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right, and it says a lot about a man that's able to be open about, hey man, I'm hurt, I'm angry, feeling sad right now.
Yeah.
And then being able to teach other younger men the importance of being able to do that as well. And that's so important, because as they get older and they maybe become husbands, have kids, now they can be able to healthy communicate to their significant other, to their children, exactly what's going on with them. And that's the ripple effect, right? It's not so much when we throw the stone, we see the ripples on top, but it's about being able to see that stone hit the bottom of that mud.
Yeah.
The ripples we won't be able to see by being able to show and be open and show their vulnerability.
Yeah. For me, it's not being shot as courage. For me, it's being vulnerable.
Emotionally vulnerable.
Emotionally vulnerable is being, that's courage. That's courage for me.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean,
And that's the thing about being emotionally vulnerable, which we ask them to do, like at Warriors Heart, and just family, whatever. Is like, I'm only going to be emotionally vulnerable if I'm in a secure environment.
Yeah, safe place.
You know what I'm saying? Because safety is a byproduct of security. You know what I mean? So we're secure. Like, okay, it's okay for me to be emotionally vulnerable. Because if it's not okay, man, I'm not going to be emotionally vulnerable. You know, so it goes back to like the environment and the people that you're with. You know, in order for, like you were saying, in order for all that to happen, there's a lot that's got to happen.
Yeah. Now, I remember you telling us, Tom, down there by the river, you know, in ancient times, you know, how they would take care of their warriors.
Yeah.
Right. And bring them back in, and they were not isolated, right? Like in today, you know, well, less than 1% serve. They get out, they get into the general population of America. It's not really, you know, there's no purpose, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like back in the day, they would be brought in and cared for because they knew what, hey, these are the guys that are riding out to save, you know, to protect our village, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have that connection, you know.
The divide is very big.
Yeah.
Like you said, and not to anybody's fault, is 1% serves usually, you know what I mean? So that's a huge divide, but it's, there's so many amazing people, you know what I mean? Even though there is that divide, it's like, hey, then you also find these tribes of people that want to support and everything. And so that's why I'm big on the veterans a lot of times is like, hey, it's just our responsibilities to reach out to the community.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of veterans and stuff will be like, oh, civilians, I don't even want. It's like, yeah, man. What? They don't understand. It's like, yeah, why don't they understand?
Yeah.
Because you won't freaking talk to them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
if you say something like that, I'm like, yeah.
Because community members will be like, man, like that want to help, you know, and that are like, hey, tell me, you know, how, what do you need? What is that? Like, you know, get away from me, you know. It's like that. So it's twofold, you know what I mean? And that's like, that's why I love what we're doing here and all the other stuff that we're doing of bringing all of us back together, you know, because it takes absolutely all of us. I mean, we're all relevant. I mean, I couldn't do what I did without all the people that were in my life that weren't doing what I was doing. You know, so it's worth it, you know.
Absolutely.
And you all's evaluated experience of Warriors Heart. Why is it that addiction is so prevalent in the veteran community?
For me, and it's so there's a you know how most talented folks like musicians, players, all that the huge talent folks. There's a lot of alcoholism and drug addiction involved with that. I don't know what the correlation with that is, but it is. You know, and so a lot of the folks that I see doing that, you know, already have that exceptional, extreme kind of talent, which leads them to other extremes. You know, and the things that you know, the profession itself, you know, I mean, everything that you experience on the job, you know, that you volunteer for to experience, you know, unprocessed trauma, you know, is a huge thing. That's why at Warriors Heart, we, you know, they get a chemical dependency counselor and a trauma counselor, because you can't fix one without the other. Because is it the drinking that's bringing up the emotion, or is it the emotion that's making me drink and drug? Like, okay, well, chicken or the egg, like, who cares? Let's do both of them, you know? So hitting it, you know, from that, because a lot of it is the on-the-job trauma, but then it goes deeper than that.
Go deep, goes back.
You know what I mean? So much of it, myself included, you know, it goes all the way back to childhood stuff and growing up, you know, and that's that. If there's something to your question of evaluation and prominent, you know, I'm sure you experienced this too. Even in myself, even with all the combat stuff and all that I did, that was probably 20% was what I needed to be working on. But most folks, myself included at one time, is things like, oh, this war stuff, this job stuff. And it's like, no, man, that's a percentage of it. But the big thing is there's a lot of, because most folks that go into these professions, a lot of folks, I won't say most folks, you know, they've had rough childhoods. You know, and they've gone usually that goes one way or the other. You know, you have a rough childhood, you'll either go the criminal route, you know what I mean, or you'll go the protector route. But it's still the same thing that's driving, you know. It's just like, for me, it was like, hey, I don't want anybody to experience what I experienced, so I'm going to be a protector, you know, and that was the plan anyway, you know, and that didn't happen until I got sober, though, you know. Did that answer your question?
No, you did it, but it's interesting you say that. I love superhero movies. And a lot of superhero movies, maybe not the first one, but when you start to get into the next movie, one of the things a superhero has to go do is has to go back to go look at like what happened back then as a kid, like what happened at the beginning.
Yeah.
And if you can go deal with what happened at the beginning, then it helps with what's actually going on right now. And I think about when I got out of the NFL, I mean, that was maybe 20% of what I had to deal with in sports.
Yeah.
But when I went to sit down and start talking to a therapist, it was really about a lot of stuff that happened back then. But sports allowed me to
Excel.
And it also was a way to allow me to run from it. And because my job demanded so much out of me, it was always full tilt, full go all the time.
Same.
So by the time you sat down, you was just like, let me get a drink. Because the job demanded so much out of you.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned this, when you got out, how things just stopped.
Yeah. And then you're
Man,
done.
it's something about silence.
Yeah.
But things get quiet. But that's where the real healing and the power comes from, being able to go back and do that work of what happened back then. So it's interesting you shared that.
Yeah, because then you just, it's not like any kind of voodoo psychology or anything, man. It's like I'm not whole. You know what I mean? I'm fragmented. I got all this unprocessed trauma. I've got all these core beliefs that aren't true, and you know what I mean, all of this stuff going on. So it's like you said, going back, and some people can do it on their own. Some people need a professional. You know what I mean? Where it's like, hey, but it's all about just getting whole and living life. You know what I mean? To its fullest. How do I be the best dad that I can be? The best, all of it. Because with all that garbage I have inside of me that is unnecessary, I can't be what it is I really want to be. And so I make mistakes, and then I compromise my own integrity. So now I got to drink more because of shame and guilt, remorse. And it's just that vicious cycle that they talk about, until I decide I'm going to do something about it and get healthy,
Yeah. No, let's see what else we got here. So, the journey of recovery. Okay, here's an interesting one. So, empowering warriors to lead and to heal. So, I guess let me ask this to you, Shane. Ken, how can healed warriors contribute to create a culture of support and healing for others? Kind of like what you're doing right now.
So something that we're it's been established, but we're going to put a little bit more emphasis on is WA, Warriors Anonymous, kind of an AA program. We encourage the warriors that when they go back home, set up your own. Go out there, research, find a location, find some warriors in your area, and start building that community together. And for me, that's critical, because when I left Warriors Heart, I didn't have anywhere to go.
Gotcha.
I couldn't go back home, right? 'Cause I had a bunch of childhood trauma I was still processing, still trying to deal with. I burned all them bridges back home, and it was not been a safe environment for me to go. So I had nowhere to go.
What did you end up doing after Warriors Heart? Like right after the...
So I just kind of floated around a little bit. I was just doing some side work in Texas, Texas, some electrical work.
Okay.
Because before I joined, I was an electrician. So I was like, I'll pick that up, right? I was just kind of sitting there, just letting the universe happen. Just kind of this yes man. I ever seen that movie with Jim Carrey? Yes man. It's like, that was me, right? I was so isolated. I didn't want to get out of my bubble. Well, something that was important for me when I left treatment was to experience life. If I don't like it, I won't do it again. But at least I tried. Right?
Went on a bunch of hikes too.
They called me up. A buddy of mine said, hey man, Warriors Heart just got a facility in Virginia. They want an alumni to come out there and help. I'm like, I got nothing going on. Let's roll. So I ended up there, helped them out, and that was my mission. I mean, we freaking got at it every day. Get that place open in 4 months. And that was purely my mission. And then from there, I think Tom and Josh seen something in me, allowed me to stay there in Virginia, and I just started mentoring the guys, and I found that passion for it, and I found I was actually pretty good at it. Started creating these kind of healing ceremonies with the guys, and it's just more for now where we're starting to bringing the alumni together and creating this program to kind of build that network and that community so that these guys can continue their recovery journey, right? Together. That community is just so critical to this journey, especially the first of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's roughly 3,000 alumni across the U.S. Reconnecting those, like, do they check in very often, or are they kind of
So it's just something that we're getting ready to kick off.
Okay.
But there is like Facebook pages of alumni. I
Mhm.
know some of the alumni, they'll kind of do their own reunion kind of thing.
Yep.
And stuff like that. But yeah, we just want to add on to that, branch it out, make it bigger, and just create a community for the guys, you know. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
What's another kind of big goal for Warriors Heart this next year, Tom?
This next year coming up, man, is to get. We have our second facility there in Virginia.
Mhm.
You know, that came online. Have been online a year now. September 11th made a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so the big focus this next year will be like, hey, just keeping everything going, getting Virginia up and running more than it is. We can take about 20 folks there now based
Okay.
on staffing.
Mm-hmm.
So once we get our staff increased there, we'll be able to increase the number of veterans or first responders that can come to us. So
Okay.
that'll be the big thing, because you know it's a big organization. So
Yeah.
it takes a lot of moving
Oh, yeah.
parts to get the ship going down. But that's and we're always got our eyes on too that, you know what I mean, the next facility,
Yeah.
whenever it's time, you know, and if it's needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Expanding into this first responder community,
Yeah.
is that where you see the need now, or more need as opposed to veteran or active duty only?
No, we've always been both.
Always been, yeah.
So we've always been both, and but we've been in Texas. It's been probably about 60 to 70% military related, and the 30 to 40% first responder.
Okay.
In Virginia, you know, I mean, obviously a lot more first responders
Yes.
in a more consolidated geographical area. So we've already had a good amount of first responders relative to like just getting started up.
Good.
And so yeah, I think Virginia will be a lot more heavier on the first responders.
On the first responders.
Yeah, it's also got a huge veteran population, huge active duty
Yeah,
population.
Yeah.
We always have a really good mix, you know, where by the fire pit where y'all
Yeah.
seen, where you
Yeah.
got a paramedic, a firefighter, for, you know what I mean,
Mhm.
a law enforcement, active duty guy, veteran,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like all
All of it.
mixed
Yeah,
in there
Correction
together.
officers,
Correction
everybody.
officers. Yeah.
Yeah. Spooner, what would you say with the bigger vision you all have?
Mhm.
Individuals that want to support Warriors Heart, how can they do that?
Man, the biggest way people can support Warriors
sir.
Heart is to promote it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because to get like really good marketing and promotions, you got to spend like millions of bucks,
Yeah.
and we don't spend money on that.
Yeah.
You know what
Yep.
I mean? We dump it right back into the guys and the organization. That's how we got our second facility. You know what I mean? So that's one of the biggest things that anyone could ever do as far as to helping out Warriors Heart, is whether it's social media, whether it's wearing a T-shirt is a really good
Yeah.
thing, man,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. I saw
It's-
Mackenzie Dern wearing your shirt. I wonder how you pull that off.
it's kind of I don't know.
Yeah.
It's funny because, you know, as people see that shirt,
Yeah.
and it all goes into, and I give credit where credit's due, and my partner Josh Lannon, you know, as far as like designing that logo, you
Mhm.
know what I mean, and there's intention, and
Yeah.
but you know what I mean, it's a rehab, man. You know what I
Yeah.
mean, like how many folks you see wearing rehab shirts running around, you
Yeah.
know, it's
But it represents so much more than that, though, you know.
and that's
Yep.
just it.
Yep.
So if someone's wearing the shirt, you know, it always happens whenever you're wearing a T-shirt, whatever. It's like, hey, what's that about?
Yeah.
And then now you're having a conversation, and even though there is that 1%, you know, what I mean, there's that big divide. It's really not, man, because there's so many people that have a connection either to the struggles of alcoholism and drug addiction in their families
Yep.
or their close friends, and folks that are either first responders or in the military.
Mhm.
So, I mean, once that conversation gets started, then all these relations occur.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With
Mhm.
human beings, you know what I mean? It's like, well, I struggled with this. you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that would be the biggest thing, is just more and more talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If talking about veterans, first responders, if there was one message you could give them, they're struggling right now, what would that be?
Yeah. The biggest one that was the biggest to me, man, is that you're not alone.
Yeah.
You know, that sounds cliche, but it's not.
Yep.
Because whenever you're in that dark spot, like Shane, you know,
Yep.
experienced, that we all have been there, it feels like I'm all alone. It thinks like I'm all alone.
Yeah.
Like no one's struggling like I am. No one's screwing up life the way that I am, you know, and it's just not true, man. we've all been there. You're not alone, and there's another way.
Mhm.
Because that was the other thing that I experienced is like, man, this is just how it is, man.
Yeah.
I'm damaged, I'm rotten.
Yeah.
And if you decide to be around me, that's on you, you
Mhm.
know, because you ain't stopping this, because I didn't know there was another way. Truly, I didn't.
Yeah.
So you're not alone, and there's another way.
Shane, would you add anything? That was one message.
Yeah, it would. Your mission's not over.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
You're still here for a reason.
Absolutely.
You know,
Mhm.
and another one. Just remember who you are. You are a good person. You might be lost now, but that good is inside you still there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you guys?
Because that's one of the saying, you know, with Warrior's Heart is where the lost find their way home, is where the broken find their power, and the forgotten are remembered forever. You know what I mean? And that's what with all the other things that we do, that's really what we're doing.
Mhm.
Like at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, that's what's said and that's what's done, man.
Yeah. Do you guys feel that, you know, kind of God has kept us here for a reason? And a lot of other guys that we've known died in war, died in just life, right? You know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, hey, we've been kept alive for a reason.
Yeah,
right?
man, because that's always a great topic, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whether it's survivor's guilt, whether it's I should have, would have, could have, you know, all that stuff. And it's twofold, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, man, the one thing that happened to me that I was unprepared for was I lived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, statistics wise, I mean, you go in enough deployments, it's math problem, man. Like all my buddies are on the wall there, like, and I was okay with it because I believed in the mission and I believed in who I was with, you know, and if I died, look my left and right, I'm like, all right, man, that's good. I mean, I wasn't seeking it, but I was okay with it. And so I lived, you know what I mean? Though what now, you know, and so then what it is like, hey, we honor our beloved dead by the lives we live.
Exactly. Yes.
Or not.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Or not.
Or not.
Or not.
Right. So this is what I know, and this is what is my motivation with the dead. You know what I mean? My dad is like me whenever I die, because I'm gonna die. You know what I mean? And I already got that worked out. You know, me and my God, and what's gonna happen with me. But here's what I know is gonna happen with me. There's my guys that are there now. They'll be like, "Come over here, boy."
Yeah.
Them same guys that I talked to, that guided me along my whole way. Yeah, that's who's waiting for me.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be, sit down, son.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this. You know what I'm saying? Like I know,
Yeah.
like if there's a fear, if there's a motivation, man, like him, and I don't want to, like I didn't want to let him down. You know what I mean? On the team when I was alive, like I gotta, you know what I mean? I gotta figure out how to do it, man, because I'm gonna answer to them for that. Hey, like they're gonna say, what did you do with what I gave you?
Yes.
And that's biblical too.
Oh yeah, man.
And what did you do what I gave you?
Right.
Yeah.
And so I want to be able to say, this is what I did. Like, hey, check this out. Like, be excited, you know? And then, but I can't do that alone. Like, there's some folks I'm sure can. I require a team. I mean, I'm here with a team. You know what I'm saying? We're developing teams. Like, I'm a team guy. I can't do it on my own. You know what I mean? And I don't like doing it on my own, man. I mean, once I get through it. But that's when you brought up the death piece, man. That's an important thing in my life to talk about, man, because there was a time when I wasn't honoring that. Like guys are getting all shitty drunk and crying and I miss you. Like, man, that's dishonor.
Yes.
With that gift, the gift of life.
Yeah.
But I needed help wading through all that, and I needed professional help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, it wasn't just like, I went to meetings and I did all the therapy and stuff, but hey, man, I need a PhD. You know what I mean? That sat down and worked on me certain times.
Yeah. Wow. Man, that's beautiful, man. Thank you for sharing it. I was chatting with the buddy earlier, and we were talking about just life. And I'm sober, be 3 years, January the 10th, and you know, he asked me what changed, and I told him, I said, man, I just thought about that I'm still here. Yeah. There's been people that's been placed in my charge. And it's on me to make sure I continue to take care of myself so I can show up to those people and give them my best. And when we look at life, there's been people that's been placed in our life that come to us for advice or want to listen to us, or maybe we take care of them. And it's important to make sure that we take care of ourselves to give them our best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Show up giving them our best.
Like
and if you don't, it's
dishonorable.
it just rolls over into everything else. You know?
Yeah.
So living on that purpose.
Well, maybe we
Got
take
to.
a question from the audience or something here. What do you guys think?
Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe
What
one
do-
more question up there. Is,
Yeah.
John,
Check.
can you tell us a little bit about the relationship with Woobies and what that
Sure.
to you guys as being part of your program?
Yeah. So it's whenever I'll just walk through it. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, I know
man.
we did it
Yeah.
together,
Yeah.
but that's it was funny because you contacted me from
Yeah.
the Sean Ryan show, right?
Yeah.
So prior to that, I've been tracking Woobies for a while.
When did you start tracking Woobies up?
I don't
do you
know. It
remember?
was when Tim was still involved.
Yeah,
in
Tim.
it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when I first started just seeing the name and what it was, and then that was a while ago. And
Yep.
then the next thing that I noticed was the tunnels to towers piece and the homeless with the veterans,
Yep, homeless
giving
veterans.
them away, right? So obviously got my attention. It's kind of my thing, and
Yep.
so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I did the Sean Ryan show, and then you contacted me, and then we got on a video, and I just be honest. I mean, we were pretty honest, It was like,
Straight to the
man,
point.
like, hey, we want to do stuff. We wanted. I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah, we want to do. But then we started talking. We started being very honest and very real, and very quick. We found out, like, or I'll speak for myself. I was like, okay. You know what I mean? I set
felt
up a
that
little
way
bit,
too.
I was like, all right,
Yeah.
okay, we're having a conversation now.
Yeah.
And then y'all decided to come out because we had the same values and the same ideas just as humans moving forward.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we don't want any flash in the pan, quick relationship thing.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, either we're going to decide to go long haul or nothing,
Yeah.
and y'all came out, and we spent all that time together,
Man,
man.
that was a beautiful time.
And
We
it just
enjoyed that.
solidified, all the talks we had on y'all's end, on our end. It's like, yeah, man, what are we going to do together? Don't know, but we want to do it together. That was the first thing. And then once we got that piece, and then it was like, okay, well, what's next? And then that's when y'all started providing at Warriors Heart, all our warriors coming through when they finish up about their third week. The significant thing they do is a lifeline, which is super courageous and hard to do. But when they finish that up, then they get a pair of Woobies,
That's
and so the big deal is, we got the full spectrum that were there. Some folks don't need shoes and don't have them, but then we have our homeless veterans, and now they have 2 pairs of shoes instead of 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, it's super emotional. It's super, you would.
No, man. We're
Yeah, man,
honored
because
to be a part of it.
Because whenever when someone is that low, and they have not had anybody care for them for right reasons, a lot of times their own reasons, right? But nonetheless, they have not had other human beings care for them. When human beings do care for them, it changes everything.
Yeah.
And that can be done with a pair of shoes.
With a pair of shoes.
With some folks, what I mean? It is like absolutely life-changing, taken care of, and that human kindness. And so that's what y'all provide. That's the relationship, and every people that y'all are related to, whether it's Tunnel to Towers, all the stuff that all the good work that y'all are doing, and selling shoes, because that's what y'all, because they're great. And it's,
got a lot of shoes.
Yeah, man, we need to get them out of here, right?
We got more coming too.
Shoes right here.
We got more
But
coming.
no, but that's and we've been doing that for 3 months now.
Yeah.
Maybe longer than that.
It may have been,
Yeah.
and
I don't
it's,
know when we were down there. I mean, we were down there.
but as far as actually giving out shoes, but that was that partnership, what I mean, that we decided on at the beginning, and now then just working out the logistics and stuff. I know on our end, it's absolutely wonderful. I mean, I can't speak to you on y'all's end.
Tom, I think that
it is. It actually is wonderful.
Yeah.
And to hear the stories.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's bigger than the shoes. The
It is.
shoes are important, but
Yeah.
to see the impact, positive impact that it has in those men and women's lives, that's you can't put a price tag on it.
Well, like we
Just
told you,
can't.
Tom, like when we kicked this thing off in 2020, we saw some early success, and a lot of it was dumb luck, right?
Yeah.
Went to a lot of our heads, and we lost who we were as a company, our
Right.
identity, right? We weren't doing right things in the veteran community, and that's when we really kind of took a hard look at ourselves and, hey, how are we re-engaging with this community? And we're not trying to be, any other high-powered veteran brand. I don't want to say anybody, but we're not those guys. It's not who we are, right?
Yeah.
And going down there, working with Tunnel to Towers, working with the Salvation Army, really helped us rediscover, like, hey, there's a way to win in a for-profit enterprise and still give back to the community. And there's a way to do it.
Yep.
And I really feel, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Is, I think we can build a round table of like-minded people that are all trying to do the right thing for this community that has lost, many of it has lost its purpose.
Yeah.
That are looking for a purpose, right? And we can show that it can be done, right? Working with guys like One Tribe here, Tunnel to Towers, with Gretchen, Team Unbroken, with NFL, whoever it is, right?
Yeah.
Building that round table. And I don't know, man. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. As a broader collaboration or alliance, or how do we do something like bigger? Going into next year or beyond. Working together.
Because what that's doing is closing that divide that we keep talking about.
Yes.
The 1%, the law enforcement. All the between all of it, that divide is bringing it all together. Because just like us sitting here, you know what I'm saying? We're all in the military. You weren't in the military. I wasn't in the NFL. You know what I mean? But doing what you said, it absolutely is, if the right purpose is there.
Exactly.
It's the mission. It's like defining the mission.
Yeah.
And then, hey, who wants to be part of it?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because then I can bring what I have to the table. You bring what you have.
Yeah.
Everybody brings what they have to the table, but it's around the mission. Because if we don't have a mission that we're going after, then we're going to start going after our own self-interest.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just human.
It
It's
is.
Just
not
human nature.
It's not a bad thing, but if it's like, if we're all sitting around this table right here and this is why we're sitting here, then we're going to be united on that.
Yeah.
And then if somebody else wants to join us in this, then
Here's the
that's what
mission.
I believe.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like it's like kind of going around it a little bit,
Absolutely.
but just defining that mission statement.
Is Kim still here? Kim hey Kim, what did you say earlier about the 2 points for the round table that you brought up? Sorry to put you on the spot there, but if you don't remember, that's fine.
Bringing everyone together to create a collaborative effort all
Yeah.
together, and then how we can keep that conversation going forward, and keeping that an open dialogue for however long is needed, really, and at this point it's going to be needed forever.
Yeah.
But how we can work together to streamline processes and build resource streams together and things like that.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any other questions from hey, there he is, Sergeant Major. How you doing, sir? Hey, thanks for coming. Any other questions from the audience? Yeah, Roy.
So you talk about how you guys have, certain guys come in. Is there like a process that guys have to go through in order for you to see, like, yes, this guy's gonna make a breakthrough, or no, this person needs to kind of have this level of experience first before you guys can actually be effective? Is there like a system or something you guys spot that helps you kind of, yes, that person or that one's going to be some work?
As far as coming to Warrior's Heart?
Yes, Warriors, right.
Yeah, it's so the answer to that question is no. I don't. We always joke about it. I don't bet on horses. You know what I mean? Like, that one's gonna make it, that one's not, because I'm always wrong. So what it is just the screening process to make sure they're psychologically and medically fit our level of care. And like I said, we have everybody coming to us is everything from a homeless veteran all the way to an active duty special operations guy to an active law enforcement SWAT, active fire, right? So we got this full big spread of folks. And so we just do the initial screening to make sure that they're in our level of care. And if they are, then we bring them on board, and it's 42 days inpatient, you know, and because of it's not a cookie cutter, I mean, Texas, you know, state law says we got to do certain things in rehab, but other than that, then it's everything else that we add to it that we know is modalities that help get that results that we know we're looking for. Did that answer your question, or not really?
Along the lines, yeah.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's something else too, like, you know, if they need more help beyond what we can offer at Warriors Heart, then we assist them to find those help, right? We just don't say, no, you don't fit our category. See ya.
Yeah.
They actually put the work in, and they find a location that they can go to and help them get into those programs.
Yeah, because when it comes to the chemical dependency piece, that's why it's primary for us. It's primary diagnosis chemical dependency. Even though they have all these other issues that have to be dealt with, it's like if you don't handle what's killing you first, which is alcohol and drugs, then everything else you do after is going to be irrelevant, you know. And so that's just as far as the problem solving piece is like, hey, what's going to kill you first? Behavioral health, emotional health, you know, or me drinking or drugging, you know. And that's like what Shane was saying. Once they get sober, cleaned up, trained up, you know, I mean, a good foundation, then they can go to the TBI treatments. They can go to all this wonderful stuff that's offered to veterans and first responders. But if they're still drinking and drugging, you know what I mean, it's not gonna, none of that other stuff's gonna work. As far as, does that help more as far as what?
Yeah, I was just more thinking, for kind of give me an example, because you just mentioned horse. In order for a horse to, you know, take orders, a horse has to be broken, and then you build them back up. So that's why I was just curious if there was a certain process that you guys, when you notice that, say, this person needs to go through certain steps in order for this to really be effective. So we're going to assign maybe someone to them that could maybe spend more one-on-one with them before they can really embrace and run.
Yeah, so we gotta, now I'm tracking with what you're saying. So there's certain things that everyone does that's breaking. The one thing that we do is called a lifeline. It's basically put your whole life on paper, good, bad, and ugly. And then once you finish with that, number one, doing it is a hard process because that's all the stuff you've been avoiding thinking your whole life. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to present that to your small group, right, to your peers, right? So that's a huge thing that requires enormous amounts of courage to do, you know, and there's really big breakthroughs. But then they each get 2 clinicians. They get a chemical dependency counselor and a trauma counselor, licensed clinicians. So those clinicians can then individualize, you know what I mean, with that client that they have. So between the large groups that we have, the small groups, and all the other pieces, those individually assigned clinicians, and they get 2 of them, you know, that's what really starts diving into what each one of those individuals needs. Would that help?
Yes.
Like EMDR.
Yeah, because some people need different stuff. Like
Yeah.
somebody needs this hardcore person to, like, you know what I mean, they need that kind of break them down, and
Yeah.
other people just, hey, let's have a conversation, man. You know, so it really gets individualized that between the 2 clinicians that they have, and then the treatment team meetings that they have together. They, you know, if a client's struggling, you know what I mean, they'll get together with other clinicians, and, you know, hey, if they might need to do EMDR, a different modality, you know, or some art therapy, ART and stuff. So yeah, we have all these different, between canine, between equine, all the other different things. We're just trying to get into them because we only have them for 42 days, and it seems like a long time, but it's not, you know, when you're trying to rearrange and fix your whole life, you know, and so we just flood them. I mean, it's super tough being at Warriors Heart. I mean, I got them going from 07 in the morning till 8:30 at night, you know, and they, in the feedback forms, they let me know how they need some time off, you know, but the time off is what got them there. So, So, but no, man, we have it's very, very individualized, you know, and if a person's willing, if a person wants to get better, guaranteed they'll get better.
Yeah.
If they don't, guaranteed they won't, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry it took me so long to answer that question.
No, this is great. I think we can. Would have been about an hour, so I think we can kind of getting close to 7. We can kind of wrap it up and kind of do some,
Spooner, man, appreciate y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all both. Appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.